Today we're going to talk about two skills. First one, always ask, does this make sense? Second one, don't fall in the elegance trap. Hello and welcome to GMAT Skill of the Day. Our mission, in under 5 minutes, you learn a skill, sometimes two skills, that you can apply right away on 700 plus level questions and improve your ability. So let's get started. Okay, seeing is believing. So I want you to first try your hand at this official guide question. This is from OG Advanced. It's a fairly difficult question. Only about 24 to 25% of test takers get this question right. So pause the video, take a stab at this question. All right, so if you have solved this question and if you selected choice B, then congratulations. Watch the video so that you make sure that you answer this question correctly for the right reasons, right? If you are one of those people who selected either choice A or D or E, then you are amongst the 40% of test takers who forget to ask the question, does this make sense? Okay, does this make sense? And that is skill number 1 for you. Focus on that skill a lot. Okay, now if you are amongst the 1/3 of the test takers who select choice C, then you fell in the elegance trap, and I'm going to explain to you what I mean by that. Okay, let's understand what the sentence talks about. An archaeological excavation somewhere at what might have been a workshop, okay, where statues were reproduced. So at this workshop, these statues were reproduced, okay, yielded 1532 fragments. Okay, now yielded goes back to excavation. This archaeological excavation yielded these fragments of human figures. Fragments means pieces of human figures, including 7 intact statues. All right. Right away, when you see over here that you're talking about pieces, and these pieces include these 7 intact means complete statues, this means that there is a big disconnect. Okay, this does not make sense. So when you ask the question, does this make sense? Does this make sense? The answer is no. Okay, so that is your error number 1. Now, if you did not identify this error, that's the reason why you ended up selecting choices A or E or D or E, right? And which is where you were amongst the 40% of people who failed to ask that question, does this make sense? So for you, this is the skill that I want you to keep in mind. Okay, now let's move on to this other expression. If you observe, let's go back over here. We are now going to talk about this other part over here. If you selected, or if you were confused between choices B and C, then what really trumped you, what you were really confused about were these two expressions: what might have been a workshop, or over here the site of a possible workshop. You were not able to make a decision which one to go with. Now let's talk about this one in detail. At the outside, what might have been a workshop seems to be a little bit more wordy, right? You would agree with that. This one is a bit more wordy, whereas the site of a possible workshop seems very, very elegant, right? So that's for sure. So how do you figure out, do you just go with the elegance? No, absolutely not. And that's where you have to apply the simplification technique to understand, okay, what do these apparently wordy expressions really mean? Think about it. What might have been a workshop? This really means that, okay, maybe this is talking about something that was possibly a workshop, right? I mean, what might have been a workshop means that there is a possibility for this site to have been a workshop, right? So possibility. So what might, so what was possibly a workshop, so the author is presenting about this possibility that this site was a workshop, and that seems absolutely fine, right? But on the other hand, when you come to this other part, what you recognize over here is the site of a possible workshop. What is possible over here? Let's take some example. If let's say you're talking about an art workshop, right? What does art workshop teach? An art workshop teaches art, right? It teaches art, right? So that's absolutely fine. Let's say you have a music workshop. What does a music workshop teach? It teaches music, right? You have, right, so again, art workshop, music workshop, drama workshop, right? So a drama workshop teaches drama. Now, let's say there is another thing over here. What if you say a new workshop? What does that mean? This is presenting characteristic of this workshop, right? It's describing this workshop. So a new workshop or an old workshop. Now think about it. What does this possible workshop technically mean? Could it mean that it's teaching possibility? Absolutely not. Well, what do you mean teaching possible, right? That doesn't make sense. So teaching is not possible over here. How about describing? What does a possible workshop mean? New workshop is fine, but possible workshop, no. So what you see is none of these meanings is sensical. The only meaning that comes out is from this apparently wordy expression, which means what might have been a workshop, it's a possibility, what was possibly a workshop. Okay, possibly a workshop. And this is why this sentence is absolutely correct. So, conclusion for you. First of all, always ask, does this make sense? Okay. Secondly, an elegant looking expression need not always be the right expression for the meaning that it intends to communicate, right? So you always have to understand, what do those apparently wordy expressions mean? Utilize the simplification technique to understand what is the author trying to say, and then also figure out these elegant expressions. What are they really saying? Does this expression really make sense in the context of this sentence? Okay, so with this, you have your GMAT skill, actually 2 GMAT skills of the day. Go ahead, apply these 2 skills on 700+ level questions and see your ability improve. Happy learning.